So, hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for this webinar about how to optimize your Microsoft SQL migration to AWS with Amazon FS6 for NetApp ONTAP. Actually, we're going to talk about databases in general. We'll give some focus to SQL, but all the pitch that we are going to have to relate into all different types of databases and the way to optimize them while you're migrating or already on AWS. My name is Semyon Mazor. I'm a product enablement specialist here at NetApp, focusing on FS6 ONTAP with the primary focus on the database workload. And today with me is also Danny Johnston. Hi, Danny. How are you today?
Hi, Semyon. Very good. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Danny Johnston. I'm one of the business development leaders here at AWS within the data storage technology team, aligned to and working within our global financial services team. So it's fantastic to be here. Myself and the team, we focus on three key areas. One's driving efficiency within our customers' data platforms. We also look at improving performance and, of course, the ever important operational resilience aspect as well of our data platforms. But perhaps an area we don't talk enough about with our customers is how our storage services can help improve their database environment. So, Semyon, really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for being with us today. I'm really glad to have you here. The webinar today is with focus on the FSI, the financial services industry. And before we dive into it, just a couple of housekeeping. This session is live. It's also being recorded and will be able to access offline. You're welcome to send your questions during the session, and we will address everything at the end. We're planning on roughly 45 minutes or so to go into the entire content. So what we plan for today is the following. We'll start with some intro for FS6 ONTAP and the industry. And as part of that, Danny will tell us a bit of a customer story. And then we'll go a deeper on the challenges of running databases and how FS6 for ONTAP can help doing so. And also we will have a demo in the end, so stay with us throughout all these parts. To set up expectation, this is a more business level presentation. We'll go too much into the technicals. We will talk about features and capabilities and the benefits, but we will not go into a hands-on and technically how exactly it works and how to operate it. We will be glad to help you doing so, but this session we will stay more on the business value and what you can achieve by using FS6 for ONTAP and how you can optimize your database operation and how it can help your business grow. So with that in mind, Danny, can you please set the stage for what we're going to cover today?
Absolutely, Semyon. Absolutely. So, FS6 for NetApp ONTAP, or FSXN for short, what is it exactly? So, at the highest level, I guess the summary would be it provides our customers with the best of both worlds. You know, all the features and functionality you have with ONTAP on-prem is fully available in AWS with the scalability, agility, and security of AWS's cloud platform. It's a first-party service. The service has been in existence for about three and a half years now. It was co-engineered and co-developed with NetApp, and I'm delighted to say that the majority of my customers within financial services now rely on FSXN to support some of their most mission-critical workloads, and it also acts as a fantastic general-purpose file storage service as well. But in the context of financial services in particular, FSXN is brilliantly suited for a whole range of use cases and workloads. High frequency, low latency trading platforms, for example, risk management and compliance systems with huge data sets, fraud detection systems requiring real-time data processing. There's a whole range and raft of use cases that FSXN is suited for. And there's a huge range of reasons for its popularity as well. Some of these are on the next slide. Now, we haven't got time to go into every single one of these features and benefits, so I'll just pull out some of the salient points here. So if we look at the data management suite, they're down on the left. That data management suite you know and love with ONTAP on-prem, access to the ONTAP CLI, ONTAP REST APIs, even integration points with other NetApp technologies such as NetApp Blue XP. That's fully supported and available in AWS. If we look at data access, there's absolutely full multi-protocol support as well. If we look at even extending your ONTAP on-prem environment into AWS, we fully support that through technologies I'm sure you're aware of, such as SnapMirror and FlexCache. As you'd expect, we've got the full range of data protection capabilities at your disposal as well. And I think a very important area for a lot of our customers is storage efficiencies. NetApp's very well known for its fantastic storage efficiencies, dedupe, compaction, compression, thin provisioning, all fully available in AWS. In fact, many of our customers are taking full advantage of those storage efficiencies to drive fantastic, significant cost takeout opportunities within their business. For example, on the next slide, you'll see Arcesium reduced their storage run cost by 46% by deploying FSx for NetApp ONTAP. But as well as an efficiency gain, they also saw a performance gain with a 500% improvement with their database speed. So, when I see a reduction in storage costs, when I see efficiency like that, and I see performance improve like that, we know this technology is making a significant impact and a serious impact for our customers. On the next slide, you'll see Advanced MD have one stage better here. They saw a 70% reduction in their storage costs. But what I love about the Advanced MD story is how they've leveraged FSxN to really reduce and shred their business of what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting. If you think about the management and operational overhead of maintaining storage arrays on premise, think about it from a hardware perspective. You've got the installation, the configuration, and ultimately the decommissioning of those storage clusters. A lot of time, effort, and energy expended just from a hardware perspective. And at a software level as well, if you think about the patching, the versioning, the OS management, the encryption, the backup, a lot of time and energy expended on the software layer. And then you think about provisioning. Now, unless you've got world-class capacity planning and it's absolutely watertight, typically you would see a delay from a request coming in from the business to provision that storage out to the business. Something that's readily achieved literally at flick of a switch with FSxN for NetApp ONTAP. We simply do away with all that mad sea, the moves, adds, deletes, changes. And then ultimately, if you think about the 3 to 5 year tech refresh cycles of those platforms, huge amount of time and energy expended with those hardware refresh cycles, often involving professional services. So I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, how does our on-premise storage environment, how does our on-premise storage support our long-term data strategy? And many of my customers actually now want to connect their data sets to the cloud to take full advantage of tools such as AI, ML. They want to glean value from their data sets. And I think the answer to that question, does my storage strategy support my data strategy? I think that will help, form and inform your approach to cloud storage. So, Semi, and hopefully that scene set was worthwhile. I'd be keen to understand more, though, how we can help our customers specifically with their database challenges leveraging FSxN.
Thank you very much, Danny. And I think what also worth mentioning is that as we see many customers, existing NetApp ONTAP customers now using also FSx ONTAP in the cloud within AWS, we see also many customers that weren't familiar with ONTAP priorly and just choose it because of the benefits that we are going to dive in just in a moment. I would like to pause here for a second and have another poll now to ask our audience how much they are familiar with FSx for ONTAP. It will help you to know you a bit better more. So you should see now a poll on your screen with the question on how much are you familiar with FSx for ONTAP, and you have 4 options for that. We assume you at least heard about it, unless this is probably the reason why you joined this webinar. So first option, I use it as a storage for my database already. In that case, I think you still can gain some benefits from this webinar to learn a bit more about the technology and capabilities. We see lots of customers that taking it for specific capabilities, but then figure out that it can do much more than that. The second option is I use it for other workloads, and now maybe you're examining for databases. Third option is I have learned about it, but I haven't used it yet. And the fourth option is I have very little knowledge about it. So please select the most relevant answer, and we will be glad to see how many of you already, how much do you know FSx ONTAP? I think, Lior, we can see the results. Yeah. All right, so see that the majority list, almost around 45% have very little knowledge about it. 40% have learned about it, but I haven't yet used it yet, and 7% for already using it for databases or for other workloads, which is great because I think this webinar would be very beneficial to you to understand how FSx ONTAP can optimize your operations. So with that, let's keep going with our presentation. So a bit of a context, when running databases on AWS, generally there are two options of doing so, speaking generally. One is a fully managed option, and AWS has a full portfolio of fully managed database services, depending on what database you need for. And the other option is having your self-managed database, in which you can install any database, any type of database, any version of your database, and you would need the compute for that, and essentially storage service, and of course, making this all work together. The consideration for each options are, if you're going with the fully managed options, it's a fully managed infrastructure. You don't need to care for any underlying aspects of that. You have the scalability, which is very elastic, and you can pay on demand on what you actually use. On the other side, with self-managed databases, you can fine-tune your configuration. You have more control on more stack of your workload. You can install any version and any type of database because you install it by yourself. And very important, you can bring your own existing license of your database and use it in the cloud. So those are the different considerations. Today, we're going to focus on the self-managed options. So all the challenges we're going to cover today are relevant for assuming that you choose the self-managed options, and this is the way you are planning to go. Now, whether you're doing it in AWS or on premises, you're probably familiar with the following challenges of deploying and operationalizing databases. First, ensuring database resiliency and protection. How are you going to protect your databases? Then, how you can ensure, achieve, and then consistently maintain low latencies for the database, which is very important to make sure that the business working as needed, the application gets the response on time. Then the third challenge is creation new databases and refreshes the data of the different databases you have. Most of organizations have much more than one databases for different needs, dev test, QA, schema validation, etc. And there's a challenge to making sure they are consistent and created on time, and the cost for them are not rising too much. And then there's, of course, the concern of cost. How can I keep my environment cost optimized? So those are the main challenges we see from customers. And the good news is that AWS provides the well-architected framework, which helps to make sure that the workloads, any workload you build in AWS, can achieve the most secure, performant, resilient, and efficient infrastructure possible. And there's a lot of guidance on how to do that while you're building your workload in AWS. If we take the same challenges we just mentioned, we see that they are correlated to those pillars. So the data availability aligns with the reliability. How can I make sure that my data is available and redundant and accessible when needed? If we look on a performance efficiency pillar, the challenge of maintaining low latency meets this pillar. For operational excellence, it's aligned with the database creation and time and cost. And cost optimization, of course, goes with cost optimization. So FSx ONTAP can help you to cope with those challenges, and we will see how. As we already said, this is a first-party version of ONTAP running on AWS. It's part of the AWS storage services, fully operated by AWS, and have NetApp's enterprise-grade capabilities that can be divided into the 5 pillars. As Danny already covered, they can be divided into accessibility, resiliency protection, data security, price performance, data mobility and copies. And we can talk about ONTAP for hours and hours because there's so much technology invented in there and so many customer benefiting from different aspects of that. We will not do it today. We'll just talk about those that are the most relevant for the 4 challenges we just mentioned. Now, in fact, FS6 for ONTAP can help you with all the 6 pillars of the well-architected framework. And I know, Danny, that you wanted to have your take on this aspect before I go into the specific 4 challenges we mentioned.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I just wanted to make a really quick but very important point on the last one there, sustainability. So some of you who perhaps attended reInvent last year or who heard some of the output from reInvent may have learned that for the first time, AWS has now published our PUE ratings globally. Let's remind ourselves that a PUE rating of 1 is perfection. Doesn't get much better than 1. AWS PUE rating is 1.15 as a global average, 1.15, which is pretty good when you compare it to IDC stated global on-premise average of 1.84. So the jury is in here, right? So there's clearly a sustainable benefit, a benefit when it comes to sustainability by moving workloads and data sets into AWS. And I just wanted to call that out, Sammy, a really quick but important point.
Thank you very much. And I think also ONTAP can help with specific workload inside that, with storage efficiency and other aspects to optimize the operation, which helps also on sustainability. So thank you for this input. So as we said, we're going to focus to open the 4 challenges we stated and see how they can help, how FS6 ONTAP can help to cope with each of them. So we will start with the first, with reliability. And organization require the data to be protected, and FS6 for ONTAP can offer several layers of data protection. It starts with the high availability. Now, FS6 for ONTAP, even though it's FS6 file system, it provides both file and block storage, which block is the recommended option to use for databases. If you prefer file, you also can do that for SQL. If you prefer and use the SMB protocol. In any way, it is highly available across availability zones, which makes it the only service that provides block storage across availability zones. And this makes sure that your data remains available whenever they need them, even across availability zones. Then the first layer of data protection provided by local snapshot, which are read-only point-in-time images of data. These snapshots are lightweight and created instantly, and they are also database consistent or application aware, which makes it easy to recover without any roll-forward activity. So this snapshot serves as the initial layer of data protection. Copies stored locally on the same file system, allowing for restoration in case of data corruption. The second layer of data protection is disaster recovery. And FS6 for ONTAP offers advanced capability with cross-regional data replication using the highly efficient replication engine called SnapMirror. And this ensures presence of additional mirrored copy of the data, even if a full region experiences an outage. So in such cases, your database can fail to the secondary region immediately. Then the third layer of data protection is backup, which allows for additional copy of the data in a different format for those who are looking for the 3-to-1 backup strategy. So it can be supported with all those capabilities of FS6 ONTAP. It's also integrated with AWS backup. It's fully efficient due to utilization of NetApp snapshot for that. And the result is fast backup, rapid restoration, and also cost savings for all that. Moving to the next pillar, which is performance efficiency. And here we can see that FS6 delivers high performance to ensure low latency for your databases. It starts with the high throughput it provides with 36 gigabytes, and actually it can go even more than that. Additionally, it incorporates unique in-memory cache and NVMe cache, which further enhances the performance for the frequently accessed data. Now, with the SSD disks, FS6 for ONTAP provide hundreds of thousands of IOPS, ensuring that your databases receive results within the required time frame. So all this together, they're just here to say there's a lot of technology they invented here to make sure databases gets the sub millisecond latencies that it needs, and it will not be, there's no any compromise on this aspect whatsoever. The next pillar is operational excellence. And most organizations have multiple database environment, as we said already, including production database, but then also for development, testing, pre-production, schema validation, and others. And typically, each additional copy requires the same amount of storage as the original, right? If we have several databases, we need several copies of the data for each databases. However, FS6 ONTAP offers a different approach. It creates snapshots, which we already mentioned, and these snapshots are lightweight and created instantly because creating snapshots really do not involve any data movement. And it also did not, because of that, it did not affect the production environment in terms of performance. Now, based on this snapshot, the environment can be created using thin clones based on those snapshots. Those clones created quickly and span off from the snapshot without affecting performance, capacity, or cost. And again, there's no actual data movement. There is a new technology using pointers that creates a copy of the data without actually moving the data. This is why do not impact the performance and do not add any substantial capacity, therefore no substantial storage cost. Now, the best part about those clones is they perform just like real copies of the data. They are fully writable. So you can create and share as many usable copies of the production data that you need without affecting the production environment or granting access to it. So the database thinks that it has a full copy of the data and can write on it and act as a full copy, but on the storage layer, there's no another copy, full copy of that. So instead of consuming 550 or 500 times the storage capacity, you can achieve the same result using the same amount of storage. And what's nice about it, that it's not only reduces your database cost, but it's also shortening the development cycles because you can create those environments and refresh the data of existing databases very, very quickly. So a copy that in many cases would take hours to do, here will take just a couple of minutes and will not need to copy the entire time. So it ends up with much lower cost, but also shorten development cycle and shortening time to market. Now moving to maybe the most important, most interesting, usually for customer pillar, the cost optimization. And we say that FS6 ONTAP can help reduce your TCO, total cost of ownership of your database workload, by roughly 50%. I will say that we'll see customers that even getting much more than those savings. So this is achieved, again, with several layers. It starts with various data reduction technology, which Danny also mentioned earlier. It includes the deduplication, compression, and which effectively reduce the capacity of your data. Now, the snapshot that we mentioned are, as we said, highly efficient and further saving on storage capacity and associated costs. We also have data tiering, which also can save on shrinking the storage footprint and saving on cost. Now, the most impact, this is already to make sure the first copy, the 100% is less than 100%. But then the real impact of storage capacity comes with thin cloning, because as we said, instead of copying your databases 550 or 500 times, you pay only for one, because the first initial 100% is less than the 100% thanks to the data footprint reduction technologies. And then any additional copy just adds a fraction of the data. So it ends up with 100% of the data capacity, no matter how many environments you have. So this can save a lot in terms of the capacity. And moving to the next capability for cost reduction, the high performance capabilities that we already said are configurable. So environments that do not require the highest level of performance, which of course would come with some cost, they can be configured for lower performance levels. So you have this flexibility to change it and configure it to the relevant performance you need and save on cost where you don't need it. Now we're coming a bit in terms of architecture. I will not go too much into the details, but there's two important things you need to know about how it's built and what is the impact. So first, because of the way FSx ONTAP built within the AWS ecosystem, it utilizes the network bandwidth, which means that you can use less compute to get the same performance, or the same compute to get more performance. We see customers, Danny mentioned one at the beginning, that they saw cost reduction, but also improvement in performance. It can be in large numbers. We saw customers that get 50% cost reduction, but 7 times more performance. This is very, very significant. And also because you can architecture moving some data replication and data protection aspects to the storage layer. You can also save on the database license and move, for example, from the business license to standard license, going from always on availability group to FCI architecture, getting the same SLAs or even better and at lower cost, both for the storage operation but also for the database licenses. So all those features together with the data footprint reduction technology, the thin cloning, the ability to configure your high performance capability, to utilize the network bandwidth and use less compute, and also save on database costs, can reduce your total cost of ownership of your database in very significant numbers. Now, Danny, I would like to hear your take about it from your experience with customers. I know that many customers, always customers like to reduce costs, right? So what do you feel, what do you see from customers in this context?
Absolutely, Simeon. We've got a really useful mechanism here at AWS called the SDA, Storage Discovery and Assessment. And what that provides our customers with is really an illustration of their current on-premise costs and what that would look like from a cost profile in AWS. We also include a performance profile, but a cost profile is probably the most important for them. So if anyone is interested in having a conversation around the SDA, the Storage Discovery Assessment, please reach out to Simeon and myself at the end of the session. We'll be delighted to follow up with you. Thanks, Simeon.
Cool. Thank you, Danny. And another nice tool to help to calculate cost coming in just, I guess, 3 minutes or so. So how it practically looks like, we covered a lot of what FSx ONTAP provide, how it looks like. Again, not going too much into the technicalities here, but we can see as a SQL as an example with the FCI failover cluster instances architecture. We will have SQL database installed on Node, another one in another availability zone, and FSx ONTAP usually typically would use as a block storage shared across those availability zones, and one would be the primary SQL and the other would standby, and the same data served for both of them shared across the availability zone. And for those who require more advanced data protection requirements, more strict SLAs, we can see the same architecture now extended to another region to support DR scenarios. So on the left side, we can see the same architecture with 2 databases on 2 availability zones with one multi-AZ file system with synchronous replication between them, and then another environment on another region with another database server running on EC2 with another FS6 file system now on single availability zone, and between them we see a synchronous replication with the highly efficient cross-region replication agent called SnapMirror. So what's nice about that, beyond the illustration of how it looks like, that you can achieve those SLAs, this architecture with FCI, moving the replication to the storage layer and therefore saving on database licenses. So you get high availability with DR on different regions, still with FC architecture, which helps, which can be achieved with standard license for SQL, for example. Now a bit about the practical aspects. This is a cloud native service, right? It's an AWS service, so you can automate that with the different options, starting with CloudFormation, mostly used for the deployment, and then Ansible and Terraform for other different aspects of operations. And we have a relatively new service called NetApp XP Workload Factory for AWS, which can help you to automate that both for day one operation like the deployment, but then also for day two and day one and day two for the operations and optimization. And it also can help you with the migration aspects. So I would like to show you just one aspect of Workload Factory. As we said, it is a service to automate operations and implement automatically best practices for workloads on FSx for ONTAP. It's a free of charge service. All what you need to do is just go to this link. We'll send you over the chat the link to the console also. If you haven't already have a user there, it takes 1 minute just with very, very simple inputs like your email, company, etc. And you get access to it. And on the home screen, you see the different workloads. So it's workload oriented. It starts with 0 permission. So you don't have to provide any information about yourself unless you wanted to do more advanced operation on behalf on your environment, but you don't have to do that when you start. I would like to show you a specific cost calculation that help you translate your on-premises environments to how it would look like in AWS and what would be the cost for that. So if we look on the database workload, we can see here exploit savings. So there's several TCO calculators, and I will go to the Microsoft SQL Server on-premises. And what it provides me here, it will give me the ability to gather information from my on-prem environment. So what I will need to do is download the script. Once I do that, I can run it on premises. Now, this is already an advantage by itself because it's a single PowerShell script that collects on all layers of the workload, including the storage, the compute, and the database itself. So no need for different tools and different aspects to collect the data. You give it a couple of hours to run, and then you upload back the script to Workload Factory. Now, once you do that, Workload Factory represents the environments it's so from this while the script was running. Because I'm in demo environment, I already have a couple of here, and then I can click on Explore Savings. So I have the data collected from the on-premise environment, and once I click on the Explore Savings, I will go to the TCO calculator. So what I see here is already translated view from the on-premises configuration. It will look what I have on-premises in my on-premises environment, and now translate it to the cloud version of it. So first I can see what would be my cost, the monthly cost for my environment. And I see the information here, like I can choose the relevant region that it will run on. I see the number of instances and the host name. I see information about the instances and the compute and storage and performance. Of course, everything is can be changed here. I can set up the information about the snapshot and clones I'm planning to do. And I will see the cost that it will be if I will use FSx for ONTAP, or also comparing to other storage services. In this case, it shows what would be the cost if I would use EBS. And what's nice that it provides the cost breakdown. Now, those calculators behind the scene use APIs to the AWS calculator. So if there's no benefit in using FSx for ONTAP, it would tell you there are some scenarios that FSx for ONTAP do not have advantage. For example, very simple environments, very small scale environments, it will show you that as well. It's not something just to say, hey, FSx ONTAP is better. No, it provides you the real scenario. So you have all the cost breakdown. And if you would like to go into more details, you can see them as well. So you see all the assumptions that were taken in building this calculation. And you can see that already you can, if you wish to, you can export that as PDF to save it, to show to other stakeholders that you need, and get all the detailed information on the environment you have on premises. And if you really would like to love what you see, you can go to create template And then we're moving to the deployment wizard, which really simplifies the creation of new environment. Again, it's working on the entire workload, so we deploy not just FSx for ONTAP, but also the EC2 instances and the database itself. It install and configure everything according to the best practices, which there's quite a few to know what are the best practices. So we do all of that. Just we would need to input a couple of parameters and click on create, or alternatively, it provides a code box, which builds the code snippets to the deployment. So you can set up the parameter, just copy the code and use it outside of Workload Factory to any infrastructure as a code that you have. Currently, those are the supported: CloudFormation, AWS CLI, REST API, Terraform, others to be added. So this is a very nice tool to see. You can try it even now. Just go to console.workloads.netapp.com, create your user and play with the calculators. And if you wish to go further also, but calculating the cost probably would be, in many cases, the first option to do. Now, to summarize what we discussed so far, FSx for ONTAP can optimize your database operations on AWS. It provides fast database cloning, creating new environments, and perform DB refresh quickly and with near zero cost for that. It provides powerful protection that can help you meet your RPO and RTO, recovery port objective and recovery time objective, with application over snapshot, disaster recovery, and backup. It also provides high performance to maintain low latency for your database with high IOPS, high throughput, and smart caching. And it helps you to save on cost and reduce your cost of the entire workload by roughly 50% with thin cloning, fewer EC2 instances, and storage efficiency technologies. Now, before we finish, we would like to ask you, what out of those four benefits that you see, what you find the most relevant for you? So we'll be really happy to hear what you think, whether it's the resiliency enhancement, having powerful data protection with snapshot, disaster recovery, and replication, with it high performance, maybe the thin cloning to reduce cost of the different environments you have, and also shorten the time it takes to refresh the data for the different environments, or the cost reduction. Now we know they're all connected to each other, right? It's the same. It's not just a standalone decision. They're all related to each other, but still we are very keen to learn more. What do you find is the most relevant for you? So we'll give another couple of seconds to reply to this poll on your screen, whether it's resiliency enhancement, high performance, thin cloning, or cost reduction. And now let's see what was the answers for that. So we see that the majority beat, almost 40% say cost reduction. The next one with 29% resiliency enhancement, then high performance with around 25%, and just 8% see the thin cloning, which totally makes sense. I think, Danny, you can elaborate more if you wish. I think that usually it go with cost and resiliency are the main drivers, right? And then high performance kind of a must, and thin cloning, which is really, really great. And it usually takes time to actually understand the large benefit of it, on enhancing the operations. Yeah, but it's usually not the top of mind in many cases.
Yeah, I think resilience is definitely a non-negotiable, right? Security and resilience, and to have that with cost savings, it's just a perfect match for sure.
Cool. So just before we move to questions, if you ask what's next, so Danny already mentioned the data assessment that we will be glad to have with you, and also, as we said, Workload Factory. You can use the link we sent over the chat, use the QR code you see on your screen, or just go to console.workloads.netapp.com, and it's free of charge. you can try it and see what you get, play with it to see the result. There's, by the way, there's also other workloads that it's supported. Today we're focusing on databases. This is the one we're focusing today, but there's also a AI workload that can help you to, to operate your existing database with Bedrock, support for VMware migration, as well as builders and general storage. Just deploy FSx ONTAP and operate it with different features that are not supported in other places. If you would like to continue the conversation and have one of our team members to help you, whether with FSx ONTAP or Workload Factory or anything related to databases with FSx ONTAP, so you also can use the link here or the QR code you see on the screen. If you wish to go deeper with the operational side of things on how to operate it, we have a group demo which we showed all the different aspects from launching the service, configuring it, running the data protection aspects, and also using Workload Factory to automate all that. So you're welcome to go to the recording. We will also have in a couple of weeks scenario session for that. And there's a GitHub workshop with code samples and a lot of information on the AWS product page. By the way, if you are thinking how many customers are already using it, so there's a long list of customer reference on the AWS website. Just go to the product page for FSx ONTAP on the AWS website. Customer stories you see, and they divided by categories. So you see for database particularly, you can see many customers. Those are just the public ones, but there's still a lot of them. So you can see that it's there. And as Danny said, we see so many customers, we see so many adoption of this service. So there's a good reasons for that. Danny, would you like to add something before we start to answer the questions that we have?
Just echoing what you were saying there. I mean, there's a reason why this is one of our most successful storage services ever launched. I think it comes back to what we said at the top of the discussion. You know, you really do get best of both worlds here. You get the fantastic technology and innovation that comes from NetApp with the world-beating cloud in AWS. It really is as simple as that. And I want to thank you, NetApp, for your partnership, and thank everyone for listening in as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not finishing yet. Let's address the questions. So there are already a couple of them. Please keep them going as we speak. We'll start addressing them. So I see a question about advantages of thin cloning technology if I'm using iSCSI loans on my EC2 server. So definitely yes. This is actually, I think, the major use case for thin cloning on NetApp language. It's called Flex Clone. It's for databases, and yes, definitely you can create thin clones when you use LANs with iSCSI protocol. So definitely yes. Is this tool also available for offline environment? So, all right, I didn't mention it's called BlueXP Workload Factory. What I presented in the demo is the standalone version of it. It's called BlueXP Workload Factory for a reason. It's part of BlueXP. If you go to BlueXP or if you're already using it, so it can be used as you can see all these capabilities inside the BlueXP console. Specifically, Workload Factory needed to be it's aimed to be connected to automate and optimize operation on FSx ONTAP. So it's not working standalone. The question is about if it can be used for offline environments. I don't see how you can use offline environments without connecting to the cloud. So maybe I'm missing something in the question. But anyway, it aims to be used. There's no on-prem version of Workload Factory. Specifically for BlueXP there is, but you would need to manage FSx ONTAP anyway outside of offline environment. I will be glad to continue this track offline if it's not answers fully your question. when will this come to Azure? So we see this request. Currently, there is no specific timeline for that, but we're glad to hear this question. Currently, Workload Factory focus specifically for FS6 ONTAP. Perhaps in the future, it will support other clouds as well. Are there any plans to include? All right. There's a question about data protection to support multi-AZ and DR in another region. And again, a question about also other clouds as well. So aspects of data protection, aspects inside Workload Factory, we're looking at it. Currently, it's not supported yet, but there are plans, yes. For that, the way to do it currently to manage different data protection aspects for database specifically is currently still with Snap Center. In the future, we're looking into it how it will be incorporated also as part of Workload Factory. Stay tuned. Once we will have it, we of course will communicate that as well. All right, there's some question related to clones. It looks to me that it requires an offline session. Please reach out and we'll be glad to help you with a specific situation that you are having here. We'll be glad to assign some expert that will help you to understand better what's going on there. I see something that's trying and something. So I will be glad to address it offline to see how we can help there. If you have any other questions, please add them. All right, last chance for additional questions. Meanwhile, I would say that usually we mentioned today's SQL several times, but the same capabilities are applied to any version, any type of database. As we said, we're talking about self-managed databases, so the same benefits applies to different databases. So this is a question that is common. All right, I think we're already 50 minutes into the session, and I don't see any additional questions. All right, maybe the last one. Yeah, another one is coming, so we'll give him a chance, and I think with that we will wrap up. Yeah, so there's a question about Oracle, and the answer is yes, you can use the same as long as you go with the self-managed option. So the same capabilities goes, the same advantages of FS6 ONTAP goes also to Oracle database. For Workload Factory specifically, it is currently not supported yet, but you can do everything that we mentioned for FS6 ONTAP for Oracle as well. All right, if you have any further questions, please reach out offline. And thank you again for joining us today. Danny, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we look forward. We have this webinar every quarter, so you're welcome to join us for next, and we'll communicate any further capabilities and communication that we have. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we're looking forward for seeing this service keep growing and this use case keeping growing and having this great momentum we have. Thank you very much. Have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.